I'd like to go ahead and call to order the continued budget work session from last week. We have all council members here present except for Counselor Munson. She should be joining us virtually at some point. And, oh, is she? Great. Great. So now we have all counselors except Cheryl here in the Nat U Hill room, and Counselor Munson is on Zoom. Let's move to adoption of our agenda. Does anyone have anything that they'd like to add or remove from our agenda? All right. In that case, we will move forward, and I just want to remind everyone that this is still budget review session time, and it is not a final approval of any of the departmental or office budgets. It's not a formal budget hearing. The public hearing is scheduled for Tuesday, October 3rd at 5:30 p.m. and the budget final adoption will occur on Tuesday, October 17th at 5:30 p.m. The public can make comment regarding our budget during those meetings. And we have a lot of cleaning up to do in addition to some of our regular business. For departments who are presenting their budget, they'll be asked to come up and have a little bit of give a little bit of an explanation as to any increases, decreases, or additions. And then council members will have the opportunity to ask questions, and they can make recommendations to increase or decrease the account lines based on that discussion or the need of the department. We do hope to keep things on topic. So if conversation strays away from items germane to the 2024 budget, we reserve the right to put those on a future agenda for the council. So without further ado and belaboring, I'm going to, well, first of all, I want to say a couple of things. We are having this budget session because a lot of challenges are in front of us with respect to staff whose salaries just aren't really keeping pace with inflation and other expenses that folks have. Monroe County is a beautiful place to live, and we want people to be able to live in the county. And to that end, we're really going through every budget with a fine-tooth comb and looking for ways in which we can get the biggest COLA, cost of living adjustment, for our employees possible. Normally, we have 5 budget review sessions, and that's pretty good, and we can figure it out from there at our regular session meeting. But it became apparent last week that we would need a 6th session, and at the last minute in county government time frames, we scheduled this meeting, which is preventing us from attending a community conversation that was recently scheduled to talk about the jail location. So the second of those 2 scheduled jail site community conversations is scheduled for this coming Sunday, and I hope that as many of us as possible are able to participate in that second one. It's an important topic, and I know that we all want to hear from the local community. The second thing is that I'd like to acknowledge that right now we're having a bit of a emergency in our jail and parking garage area. There's a gas leak that's preventing county employees who use that garage and others right there in that immediate area from going about their business and getting in their cars and going home. So I know that county officials and emergency responders are working hard to fix that problem, and I'm hopeful that they'll be able to do that without any danger or damage to the public or any of our infrastructure as well. The last update I heard was that they were finding alternative ways of getting folks where they needed to be. So I appreciate that. But wanted to acknowledge that there's a lot going on outside this room that folks are thinking about and hoping for the best for. Now, I will let us proceed to what is item number 4 on our budget agenda here, and that is overview of expenditures and revenues. And I'm wondering if Kim Shell, would you be willing to give us a little bit of an update on the changes since our last review session?
Yes, I can, and I'd like to share my screen. So I'm going to display, it's a copy of what we call the draft 4B. I have gone through, Courtney has helped me, we have updated with all of the changes. We went back and ensured that we captured all of the changes that you guys mentioned last week. Our general fund estimated budget request now sits at $46,509,655. We also made changes with regards to public safety lit, and that is $3,948,198. That was from last week, those changes. So everything else has remained the same. I do anticipate more changes after tonight, so we will be updating that. And that's all I have with regards to updates from last week.
Great, thank you. Are there questions or comments? Councilor Iverson and then Councilor McKim.
Yeah, I think this is a good time to point out that on the net 2024 revenue line for the total frozen levy, that number right now is a negative $413,397. However, when we started the process, that was at almost negative $2 million. And the reason why that has come so much closer down to zero is because so many departments reduced their budgets so that we can make sure that we're taking care of our employees. So I just thought that should be pointed out.
Thank you. Go ahead.
And unfortunately, what I'm going to say is probably going to bring that number in the wrong direction. But this is on the property tax levy. I remember we had discussed this earlier, that I was thinking that the property tax levy was probably showing a little bit high. And I know, Ms. Gregory, you sent out an email from the DLGF that I think clarified that issue a little bit today. And so are you in agreement that we're probably going to need to take that general fund levy down around?
Are you referring to the mental health?
Well, that was the nature of the question, but
Yes.
that basically that we can't use that ceiling for anything else. So
We tried. We tried our hardest.
okay, so I would recommend that we just in our numbers that we're using here, that we back that number down for the general fund. I mean, it'll reduce it by about $250,000.
Yes,
in
but
good
I'd like
shape.
to be noted that we are trying everything we can for employees to help them get the raises.
I'm all in favor of the raises, believe me. I am fully in support. I just want to make sure we
Just have to keep
we
it
accurate.
Yeah, above board. All right. So you're saying instead of 413,397, it's going to be more.
Here, let me.
Oh, I see where you are.
It's always good to be a little bit high. I know that's, as the auditors pointed out, we usually lose some in the rounding. So yeah, I just adjusted that number to where I think it's
And
more accurate.
and what are your adjustments showing? Because we're looking at a different
sorry.
screen.
I have a copy, so you'll have to share your screen because I
Yeah.
can't get to Dropbox. So
Literally, all I did is see that property tax levy number there.
right there.
Yeah, just change it to the number that's above it,
Whoops.
because that number above it is just adding 4% to the previous.
Change that one there.
Yeah, just make it 21153,421, and then
Is that right?
yeah, we could actually bump it up a
The
little.
3
bit
and
more.
4 are transposed.
Oh, I see that.
3.6. We'll probably move it. Let's see, another.
Said $10 off or what?
Well, hang on.
Yes.
If you moved it, if you changed that 153 to 253, see 21253. Try that.
Tell me why.
What? Because we don't want to leave a whole bunch of money on the table. You see where the orange number is 4% over the previous year, and we're under that now. We don't want to be under. We want to be a little bit over. So if you choose that, change that 21253.
Got it.
Change it to 2-1.
253. Move the, no, not
Oh.
that one, no. Sorry.
Back in the one you were just editing, the property.
F20, go to F20. And change that to 21253,
And then
421.
421.
And you see there, now we're still a little under. It's good enough for,
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, it's just an estimate. It's not,
It
the
is just
auditors-
an estimate.
The auditor's gonna advertise high anyway, so. if we
So,
want them to-
yeah, so we're looking at that bottom line, 667 number
Yes.
there, and that, so we think of it as like a 700,000,
Deficit, right.
deficit, got it. Okay,
I think Kathy's got some.
hi, Auditor Smith.
Now that you heard the little bit of bad news, we have some good news. Bree has been putting on her strategy hat, and we have worked possibly out a strategy to maybe not just recoup that, but even more. And I'd like her to take a minute while you have this exact discussion to explain that, if you don't mind. Do you mind?
Go right ahead.
Well, we've been discussing this a little bit now, and I've sent to you the information today, just about budgeting items in ARPA, expenses in ARPA that are eligible. So obviously this would, take some teamwork between the commissioners and the council. However, there definitely is a possibility there. And I sent you all the information, but we can discuss a little bit more thoroughly if you'd like.
Please.
Would you be willing to just give us an, the highlights of that? Because I have to admit that I saw that you emailed me.
No, I completely understand. I did it as fast as I could.
Absolutely.
No, absolutely. So yes, paving is an eligible expense. There are some hoops, as always with federal money, but we can definitely make that happen. I had actually spoke with the highway director. She agreed we can meet all the requirements. So we're great there. So if you would like to budget, paving in ARPA, it's going to be like project by project, but that will work well. Another item is we'll have to bid.
Could you restate that a little slower and louder? I cannot hear in this room to save my life right now.
Sure. I do talk quickly.
Well, it's not it's these microphones, they're dying on us.
Okay. So regarding paving, I went through that with our outside consultant, and I also spoke with Highway Director Lisa Ridge. We will be able to meet all the requirements under ARPA, and if we budget paving, some paving projects in ARPA.
Okay.
Another confirmation I received is, at least the 2024 portion of the mental health services contract for the correctional facility, we can make that work as well. Now, it will require a little bit of extra effort, as is required with federal dollars. We'll have to bid it out and, go through the procurement process. However, it is definitely possible. It fits perfectly. Now, also, your attorney has reached out to Advanced Correctional to determine whether or not we've already gone through a bidding process. Now, if we've already gone through a procurement process, we could also potentially correct 2022 and 2023's mental health expenses if the electeds are, interested in doing so. So that would free up quite a bit of cash. And it's a great use of ARPA. I mean, it fits perfectly with that program. So I've also reached out to our outside auditors that do our yearly audit, just to ensure, they're on board with the mental health portion of that correctional facility contract. We know it's good for 2024, but if they wouldn't take audit exception to continuing a long-term contract and allowing the 2022 and 2023 without the procurement, we might have a green light there as well. So I haven't received that feedback yet, but I'm waiting. And then finally, some of the Sophia Travis grants are also eligible. I went through the 2023 list, and of course, you haven't done 2024 yet, so just a possibility there.
Councilor McKim?
I guess that's great. And that was great information. I appreciated your memo earlier. I also think we need to consider using some of the opioid settlement money for, a number of things, but one thing we could definitely use it for. The restricted part is for the portion of the jail medical contract that is specifically related to substance use. We know we've added one position in that contract that's specific to substance use. We've added another one with mental health. I think we should strongly consider using, at least paying for the amount that those two positions represent out of the restricted portion of opioid. And I know you've been doing a lot of research on where we are on the opioid funding. Yeah. Have we gotten to the point where what we've actually received agrees with what the state website says, or are we still off?
There's still some questions that we're trying to work through. So as soon as I have an update, I will share.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Hawk?
Also, I did send out a message today saying that because of the information you sent last night from Baker Tilly, it certainly appears that paving project that the airport needs to get done could be done under ARPA. And rather than trying to take it out of rainy day or someplace and get that moving forward. I don't know whether there's interest in that or not, because every time we mention that, we know we've got to get the commissioners on board for it. Mm-hmm. And then I also asked about the airport needs a backup generator. That's $100,000. So if we could find that in an old bond someplace, or in ARPA, because that the airport has to have a backup generator.
But is that in their budget right now?
No, I mean,
Okay.
but if we're talking about what can we add into ARPA or into bond, I wanted to throw that in there.
Okay.
Just want to make sure.
I was just wondering where that came from. Okay.
Yeah, both of those are not currently, I think. Yeah.
And those vehicles, Ms. Purdy did say that she was going to find a place in the bond.
In one of the
that.
old bonds.
Right.
Yeah.
And we did get the community corrections approval from the state, so we can move forward with that. So even if you take the expenses that we were going to put in there and move it over into ARPA, that frees up that $425,000 that we can put other jail expenses in.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Councilor Iverson?
Is it okay if Bree gives a response?
Oh. Yes, of course, sorry.
Yes, Councilor Hawk, yeah, I totally agree that airport paving would be eligible as well. I was simply looking at actual budgeted items for 2024, but I I definitely agree with you there. And I did fail to mention that the AEDs are also an appropriate ARPA expense, and I meant to mention that previously.
And I know those are also on the list for this year's GO bond.
Yeah.
On the paving projects, I'm looking at the spreadsheet that you sent out this afternoon, which thank you, that's very helpful. And obviously the 1169 local road and street bituminous line, that's one of the paving projects. But you also included the amount for paving out of our rainy day as well, and that's $1 million.
Yes, I believe we can. I need to discuss that a little bit further with Lisa Ridge. However, I believe we will be able to correct that out, and we can. I think we have the documentation needed on hand.
That's very interesting.
If
thing.
that's something you choose to.
Yeah. Conditional, of course. Yeah. Thank you.
Councilor Hawk? I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine. I'll defer.
Oh, I think I also saw when Bree sent that out was that documentation, we could use what we have paid out already out of rainy day for the highway and be able to pull it back into ARPA free.
That's what she.
Oh,
That's
did
what
you
she was
just
just
now
saying.
say that? I'm sorry. I was reading and trying. Okay. I'm just trying to figure out how much of this I'm supposed to have already read.
We were all over the place.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I want to echo something that Councilor Hawk said, and I just want to iterate this for particularly for our commissioner folks. Whatever we have in bondage, as far as dollars that have been put aside for bond, let's let no bond go unturned. Those are dollars that have been borrowed, looked at, et cetera. So those create options for funding anything that they would fit, then I think that we should make use of that as well.
I completely agree. Any other comments or questions on that? Okay. Any other updates or information before we get started?
No, not at this
Okay.
time.
Great, thank you. Then our first item of business is the county fair budget.
All right. And appreciation to our county fair folks who've been waiting with the patience of Job. Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1000-0806 General County Fair with category requests of in services $113,755 and a total of the same.
Second.
Welcome. Could we get a third chair pulled up, please? Thank you. And thanks for your patience as we have a long preamble before getting into the heart of things. All right, so we have the budget up on the screen, and we have a couple of papers that you shared with us. Would you like to give us the highlights?
Hi, I'm Dana Stevens. Just to give you what we do with the funding that you give us, which we're very appreciative of. I think our fair this year was fantastic, and a lot of people used the fairgrounds. I feel like that we have a lot more usage out of the place. We're seeing more people come out there, more interest in it, and it takes a lot to keep it going. This is my second year on the fair board, and I had no idea. So it's been a big undertaking, but I enjoy every minute of it. So,
Can you please pull the microphone
I knew
closer
was
to
gonna
you?
say
And Yeah, thank you.
Sorry. So we're actually not done with our 2023 expenses. So it was we're not even done with our Fair Board, our numbers yet. So we're still have invoices coming in, bills coming in and everything. So we really didn't have our expenses. They are a lot. Pricing, as you know, everything goes up. So we just gave you what we left our budget at. We know we won't go lower than that on our budget for 2024. So we did a 4% increase, but we're grateful for anything we get.
Okay. Did you do a 4% increase across all lines?
We just did a 4% of the total budget.
I see. So
Yeah.
effectively,
Yeah, of the total budget.
okay. Are there questions from council? Councilor McKim.
So I'm looking at your 2024 Monroe County Fair Association budget here, and I don't see that particular number. Is that so? The money from the county is not paying for particular line items. It's just one revenue source in
Yes.
addition to like gate fees.
Yes,
and
it goes,
everything.
correct. Yes, it goes into a pot of money. We spend all of it out of there.
Okay. What are your other revenue sources besides the county subsidy and?
We do rentals of the buildings throughout the year. Then, of course, our gate fees for general admission, our grandstand events. The carnival brings in a large portion of the revenue, and that's pretty much where we get our revenue from. Is renting the buildings is the big priority of it.
Okay, thanks.
Councilor Deckard.
Your auditorium is extraordinary, and I think it's a real gem on the that side of the county. And I unfortunately, I think people don't always know about it. Are you seeing a rental? I can't talk tonight. Are you seeing rent go up on that, or usage go up on that in any way year over year?
I would say in the last couple of years, our buildings in general have went up, but our auditoriums went up. We've hired new caretakers, and they're really pushing our rentals. They're going through a few online. There's a couple websites online that like a reference when somebody says they're having a wedding. It gives them ideas of in Monroe County what they can rent, and we've kind of pushed that more.
Awesome. That's
Great.
awesome.
Other questions? Oh, hi. Sorry, Councilor Munson. Go right ahead.
Thank you. I wanted to thank Fair Board President Jay Connard, a longtime supporter and advocate Les Carmichael, and Treasurer Dana Stevens for presenting us information tonight. And while there's only a 4% increase in what the county subsidy for county fair property and building would be in 2024, their expenses are likely to be much higher than an increase of 4% for 2024. Councilor McKim was right by pointing out that the money all goes into a big pot, but that big pot has a finite number. And so I know how hard the Fair Board members work to bring revenue into the system and to keep the fair going. And thanks to Councilor Deckard for pointing out the auditorium. It's a great facility and one that is available to rent by various organizations. The same is true for the community building and for other buildings at the fairgrounds. So community support can grow to help this operation. And I urge council members to support the 4% increase in the subsidy that the county provide. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments or questions from council? I think 4%. Oh, go right ahead.
Yes, I have a comment. As the auditor and the person who cuts the check to the Fair Board and has for many, many years, as both the auditor and the treasurer, it's been many, many years now. I take issue with what was written, and this is respectfully take issue with what was written in the Fair Book. And it says, for many years, there was a tax levy that helped pay for the improvements to the grounds. Today, these improvements are made through donations, advertising, rentals of buildings, and the public attendance at the events on the grounds. Nothing is mentioned about the money that comes out of our levy that still supports the fair. And the reason it upsets me is when we switch from giving you guys a tax levy to giving money this way, we increased your money substantially, and I fought for that for you. As a 10-year 4-H member and a person who has grand champions there in open class, I really support the fair very, very much. And I would just like the county citizens who pay their taxes, and that tax money equates to this $113,000 plus, to have credit for that, and that to be represented in the Fair Book in a fair and equitable manner in the proportion that advertising and donation and rentals of buildings and public attendance receives. Because this $113,755 is a substantial amount of money, and it's much greater than the old $25,000 we used to give you guys that I fought to increase. So I want to say that publicly. I've said it several times, but no one has called me back or responded to any of that. And I think that is very important, because every single penny of that $113,000 comes out of the pockets of one of these citizens through their property taxes that we have to collect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Other comments then? Okay. That said, I think that, 4% is the growth quotient, and so a 4% increase seems on par, and so I'll support this budget. If there aren't any more comments, we'll go ahead and have a roll call vote on moving forward with the county fair budget request.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you. Now we're at item 6, Health Department.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1161, Local Public Health Services.
Second.
Hello.
Hello again.
Welcome, Dr. Pritchard and Ms. Kelly. So we've seen you already, and we've gone over lots of budgets, but we have 2 on our agenda this evening,
Yes.
and we had some adjustments to talk about.
Yes.
Okay.
I will start off by saying that back in August, I had submitted 3 council agenda request forms, and it was recommended to me to bring these up during the budget session because it would be impacting the budget. So the budget that I have prepared this evening does reflect those changes, and so that's why I have the material that I do. So one of the agenda request items was we recently passed a part-time salary grid rate for all of our part-time employees. So there will be some adjustments needed for the part-time hourly rates. So that is one item. An additional item was a third assistant registrar position. So that has been reflected in the budget that you are seeing this evening. And lastly, we requested an agenda request form to discuss salary grid adjustments for all health department employees. And the adjustments that are reflected in the financial statements that you have include a 10% increase.
Council?
Yes.
Do you want me to continue to display what was originally submitted, or would you like for me to display what she submitted today that has the 10% that she's talking about?
Yes.
For the first two items that she mentioned, I think it's helpful to have what was there because it addresses those line items. But for the 10%, it might be helpful to have the other document up since that's more global. That's just my opinion though.
Okay.
That's fine. Councilor McKim.
I mean, I don't have any problem with the first two items, but I don't see how the third item is even possible. We have no doubt that everybody in the health department is that valuable, but it essentially would mean restructuring our entire salary system. Right now, it has taken us 20 years, I think, to be on firm footing with our grid-based compensation system, in which a Pat B in department, in the health department is the same as a Pat B in the recorder's office, is the same as a Pat B in the public defender's office. We cannot go back to a system in which we have a separate grid for each department. I mean, if we do this request, if we were to grant this request, then why don't we also have a separate assessor's grid or a separate auditor's grid? It's not simply a matter of the cost of the 10% raises. It is literally a complete deconstruction of our entire compensation system. And we cannot at least I cannot support that on the fly like this.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor McKim. Any other council comments at this point? Okay, so it sounds like, Michelle, you've got marching orders on what to display here so we can take a greater look. Councilor Hawk, you had a
Yes,
comment.
I just wanted to add that this is your first year to do a budget. And so I appreciate the fact that you are representing your department. And by next year, you'll recognize if you want certain increases in salaries, you either have to change their classification, and that has to be approved through WIS, or everybody gets the same kind of a raise. We try to treat everyone the same. But I don't fault you for trying. This is your first good rodeo here with us.
Absolutely, and with this Health First Indiana funding, that was really one of the key points that the state was making with this additional funding to invest in our health department workforce. So along with other health departments, of course, that was something that I was going to prepare for.
Yes, of course.
One comment I wanted to make is I do want to mention, and you've watched all these budget here. I hope you haven't watched them all, but you've probably seen one or two. Maybe.
Everyone. We've seen everyone.
And this goes for everyone, really anyone that has watched this of our folks in the county. If we had a theme here this time, the goal is to get more dollars for every county employee that in a uniform way. I mean, if there was anything coming from this, and so I don't know that this is it per what the counselors have said, but our goal is maybe even tonight. I don't want to predict anything, but to have that kind of an answer for county employees who I know this is an exceedingly valuable topic for them, as we've heard time and time again.
Councilor McKim.
And I think that's a very good point. I mean, I don't know how others feel, but I am hoping that we'll be able to do 8.5%, which is close to 10%. Yeah, I hope we're able to come to that kind of agreement tonight, but we'll see.
Yeah. Other comments or questions on that? So
Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes, of course.
I didn't want to interrupt, but Councilman Deckard, I also share your inability. It's really, the acoustics in here are really strange.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, this is just my 2 cents worth, having been on the board for decades now, 2 decades, is that public health funding in our state is abysmal, has been abysmal. We ranked in the 45th to 47th position nationwide. Finally, state government recognized this, and as their budget allowed, they decided that this was a priority. And I'm all in. I completely applaud this. I think it's something long overdue. In the book that came with this new law, there's a workbook, and it's called Workforce Assessment. And much of that assessment is dedicated to the chronically underpaid staff at county health departments. So, that's the genesis of this. I completely appreciate your this is all new to me, the PAT, whatever, and all those things. The board has not traditionally been involved in these kinds of discussions. We were more a health policy board, but as it appears that we are now going to be, and have been in the last year, more involved in administration, hopefully as an aid and not a not a detriment to Lori's actions. But I would just like for you to consider the fact that the health department employees, we have employees leaving to go to other departments. And that just happened not all that long ago. And because of the pay, which I'm just addressing, your concern, Councilwoman McKim. So there are other departments making more money. And it's my understanding the sheriff's department just got a big bump in salary, probably because they have been chronically underpaid for their jobs. Just a guess. So I know that some of the salaries increases seem maybe out of line with what has traditionally been done, but we've also been a long-suffering department with a higher turnover rate than probably other departments because of this. And Lori has this ship going in the right direction, and we have great employees now, really efficient employees. Our statistics will show that in the last year, we are now doing more procedures by like a threefold. And we don't want to lose these people. And I guess that's will be my final word, is that, we appreciate our employees. We appreciate the position that you're in. I mean, I certainly, whatever you decide here tonight, I certainly don't, I understand what you have to do. You have to be responsible. Anyway, thank you for listening, and appreciate anything you can do for us.
Thank you. Councilor Iverson.
Yeah, from a PAC perspective, or the Personal Administration Committee, it's not that we don't want to support the employees of the community. It is, and I think I agree with what Mr. McKim said. It's the method, and so I would encourage you to reach out to the PAC administrator, which in this case is Michelle, and continue this conversation about how we can more equitably make sure that we are attracting and retaining quality health staff. Mm-hmm. I don't think this is necessarily the end of the conversation.
Agreed. Okay. Councilor McKim?
I guess I'm looking at the old budget request versus the new, and I just want to make sure I understand. There's one line that's labeled removed that had something in the 20.
Is it personnel? I believe it is.
It's in personnel.
Okay. So our DIS program coordinator was originally in that spot. And with this Health First funding, this funding is intended to be used within Monroe County. Currently, our GIS employees serve 12 counties, so they cover an entire district. The coordinator wanted to ensure that she could still provide services in all 12 counties. So essentially, I've kind of flip-flopped the positions. So we do still have a disease intervention specialist in this Health First funding who's going to be providing services strictly within Monroe County, as well as a part-time assistant. And we are going to, the goal is to keep the DIS coordinator grant funded and hopefully be able to obtain enough grant funding to also add a position to serve all 12 counties.
Got it, thanks. And then, so now on the vital statistics registrar, you have 3 total, right?
Correct.
Or you're requesting 3 total, okay. Thank you. We're gonna have to figure out what motion to make
Yeah.
to approve this, because
Yeah. The
I
Yeah,
think
the
one
problem is we
other
don't have
change, the 2 new positions that are proposed and going through the PAC process, those have now been included. Is that correct, Michelle?
We just got back the behavioral health and wellness coordinator information. The public health liaison has yet to go to PAC, so that's scheduled for October. So that hasn't even been reviewed yet.
Okay.
So
is the behavioral health and wellness correct according to the way it came back?
Oh, so
sorry.
that would need to increase. I guesstimated at a Pat A.
Yeah, so that amount's not correct.
So currently, well, as of earlier today, I still had $39,000 within 1161 to try to quickly strategize where to place that. I now will have additional funds once we reduce these salary rates back down. So this will be changing again, and then the budget will be resubmitted to the state September 25th. So I imagine maybe we'll be increasing our contracts through partnership agreements, supplies and services. So those figures will likely go up in the supply and service categories.
I have a question. I'm assuming that position is 35 hours?
Correct.
Okay. And then you would be putting it in at the minimum
Correct.
level? Okay. So that amount is $43,608. That's what we're currently at. So that would be the flat amount for 2024.
Okay.
Additionally, in 1159, once we make those changes back with the salaries, I will be moving some of that money around as the total amount that we had come up with was $984,620. So it's still pretty close to the minimum opt-in of $984,595, which is required for the county.
So I guess procedurally, what is it we need to do with 1161, since it sounds like we still need to make some more changes, or you need to make some more changes before we vote on it?
I want to suggest that you do it per category. So because it looks like if you go through, she's made changes all the way for each category. So if you want to just say that you want to stick with the 2024 requested rather than the new amended, that kind of thing, but do it per category, and then I know where we're at.
So you actually think we're going to vote on this today then?
Right, that's what I'm saying. Do you want to approve?
I tell you what, let's try this a different way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Council, I move that we approve the new 2024 requested budget with the exception of the 10% addition to salaries.
I'll second. Counselor Iverson.
Under the motion just made for the behavioral health and wellness coordinator, that would still be the higher amount that we'd be adopting. Is that correct?
Yes.
I mean, we'll have to fix, we may have to
We'll
tweak it
come
down
back
or
and
up.
bring it down.
Yeah, depending
Okay.
on how it comes out. But
I think
it allows them to move forward.
I was just about to say, I think Counselor McKim's motion makes a lot of sense for the sake of moving forward this evening.
Yeah, because we tabled it indefinitely the last time this came before us. It'd be nice to move. Yeah.
They can come back with tweaks if they need to.
Okay. Further comment or discussion?
I'm sorry, who seconded the amendment?
Counselor Hawk?
Thank you.
Okay. In that case, let's go ahead and have a roll call vote on the motion as stated by Counselor McKim to move forward with we're voting on both health funds budgets.
No, we haven't done 1159 yet.
Sorry, 1161 budget.
Yes, this is for 1161. It's to approve the new amounts minus the 10% of the salaries,
Yep.
correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous on the amendment.
Okay, so we're going to consider 1159.
And now you need my motion, correct?
We need a motion if we're going to,
Oh, a modified motion.
Hold on, just a procedural question, just real quick.
yes.
The motion that we just voted on was to pass 1161 or to pass an amendment to 1161?
It was to pass 1161 because he never read, the initial motion was just a generic to open
Yeah.
for discussion.
So now a new modified motion could replace a generic one for me.
If you'd like, or,
For 1161, I think the way we just did it is fine.
Yeah,
We're
I
in the
think
same
we were
boat as
fine because
11
there was no official
with
motion
1159.
other than you opened it.
So, council, I moved open for discussion and review Health Fund 1159-0000 without the 10% increase.
Second.
okay,
So I know this leaves, I'm sorry.
go right ahead.
I know this leaves you with some, we need to increase this budget then, since we've taken out the 10%, we need to increase it to make up for the match, right?
Quite a bit, yes.
What did you say that the minimum was?
984, 595, and 1159, and 1161 as 1,577 and some odd dollars.
Trying to think if it would make sense.
I think it'll be close to 100,000-ish, with the 39,000 that was still unaccounted for earlier today.
So wait, where when you say that 30,000 not accounted for, the total in the paperwork we have here says 984,620 as the bottom line.
For 1159, that is correct. I'm still speaking of the 1161.
Oh, sorry.
And
Sorry.
That's 1,500,000.
77, and I don't have the rest of the exact numbers.
Okay, so yeah, with the 10%, that was just under what you needed. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Do you need to see 1161 again?
No, they're right in front of me, and I apologize because this, you know, I haven't had a chance to look this over as much as I'd like, so I'm very inarticulate and not leading the meeting very well because I'm trying to read too. Are there any other questions or comments?
I was just going to suggest that we stay at 1159 since that's where we're at. Let's go back to 1161 in a little bit.
You were going to suggest what?
Stay on 1159 and tackle those issues.
Yeah.
Here, since Mr. Deckard read that motion, we're under that motion.
Mm-hmm.
And so here we have those two positions that you had mentioned at the outset are in 1159, correct?
I believe it's double budgeted, but those are intended to be in 1161.
Okay.
Do you think you're going to use that 10% that's moving back out? Well, you know, gosh, we're chasing our tails here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are.
We might wind up adding 5% anyway, or something.
That's true. Can we, I mean, it is non-binding and we know she's gonna make changes.
Right.
So we can say that we can vote on moving forward, having her move forward, making the adjustment she sees fit, although we should probably take another look.
Yeah, so we just do it the same way we did the other one.
Yeah.
That we just pass it
Yeah.
minus the 10% and then understand that she's gonna have to put something else in there to bring it back up to the minimum.
And that's exactly the motion that was read, so I think we're in good shape.
Well, he said open for discussion, I think, wasn't it?
But he did say the minus the 10%.
Yeah, he did.
10%.
Yeah, he did.
Right, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
All
that
right.
would give her fiddle room.
You
before
have fiddle room.
Before we hit final adoption.
Fiddle room.
How's that?
Yeah,
Quite
this
a bit, yes.
This is not a binding vote
Well,
anyway.
at
We're
all.
just trying to express.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is challenging. I mean, I want to make strategic decisions. And again, which is why it was near the end of the day. And I'm like, I still have $39,000, but I just don't want to put it someplace.
Yeah.
I want to have a game plan. So a lot of these are game plans. They're work in progress, just like all of the contracts, the agreements, the MOUs. I have money filled into those areas to address these core services, but I don't yet have the contracts. We don't have the official agreements. It's all a work in progress, and 2024 is going to be a really big building year. Hopefully 2025 we'll be able to focus stronger on those partnerships and collaboration, but this has been a long learning process, but it's also been very exciting. But I want to make sure that we're using this money with good intentions.
Yeah, I would just kind of to echo that all of this on every end imaginable is trying to figure it out best we can. Even when we adopt the budget, we start thinking about the next one. And the year goes quick.
Yep.
We'll be back here in like 12
You
seconds.
address this with the salary ordinance.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should just vote
Okay.
on the motion that was just made. And, you know, we'll hopefully know by the end of today maybe what kind of cost of living increase, and then you'll have your
Then you'll be
number
able
that
to
you need to
do-
back into.
Yeah. So, other questions or comments before we take a vote? Let's go ahead and do a roll call vote then on moving forward with Health Fund 1159, as stated by Counselor Deckard.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes?
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
It's just to me.
So,
And Lori, I will work with you and Eric to get the correct numbers and get those back out to the council.
Thank
Okay.
you. And Ms. Shell has been so helpful through this process, so I really appreciate being able to lean on her.
Well, thank you, and thank you for navigating this new
That's a
world
lot.
that we're in.
Yes, so hopefully we'll be in a much better place next year. I definitely think so.
This whole process with the new money is just
Yeah. It really is.
We're used to that. That's what we do.
It is a
Yeah,
good problem to
headache.
have.
Definitely could be the opposite, yep.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
We are now going to move to item 7, proposed changes to prior budgets, and we'll start with the recorder's office.
Council, I move to open for discussion Fund 1000, 0004 General Fund Recorder, and to set line 10149 Recorder Deputy to $20,721.
Second.
So this reflects moving one deputy position, or one half of the salary of a deputy into the Recorder's Perpetuation Fund.
Technically, we don't have to make the decision about the recorder's perpetuation fund. It's the recorder can do that without an appropriation, but
Right.
I couldn't remember if you did or not, so I included it just in case.
Yep.
we'll need to do it in the salary ordinance. but
Yeah.
not in
Right.
not in the appropriation.
Okay, are there any questions? We had discussed this, and I believe Auditor Smith said that she had had a conversation with the recorder, saying that this was something that was at least okay with.
The recorder sent an email today,
Right.
basically saying
Okay.
she's,
Yes, and that's what I was just gonna say. She did send an email saying she is willing to move the highest paid deputy and do
Got it.
half.
Perfect. Thank you. Are there questions?
just that we thank the recorder for
Yeah.
working with us on it.
Yeah, that's really nice. We appreciate it. Could we go ahead and then have a roll call vote on moving forward with the update to the Recorder's General Fund?
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Council, I move to open for discussion Fund 1189 0000.
Oh,
We don't need to do
We
that.
don't, yeah, we don't.
Oh, we
sorry.
don't?
Nope.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're on item B now.
Council, I move to open for general discussion Fund 1000 General Fund Clerk on the overtime line 17101.
Thank you.
Second.
And this is regarding the possibility of reducing the overtime line further, given that we are hopeful, and by we, I think I don't want to speak for other folks, but there are a few of us who feel that the current limitation on comp time should be increased, and council doesn't do that. So, that's not our purview. However, it was at a point of discussion when we did talk with the clerk, and it does seem that being able to use and be more flexible with comp time can be a more economical way to allow them the flexibility that they need. So with that suggestion being put forward to the Personnel Policy Committee, I believe that's what it's called, I was thinking that we could go ahead and reduce the overtime line to $15,000 for this fund. And just as a reminder, this is the fund for the clerk's positions that are not running the election, where you might think, oh my gosh, they need that deep overtime to manage November and May. Are there questions? And then go right ahead.
Right. At one time, a couple of years ago, I think we were still receiving a list from the payroll department showing us the departments that had more than a certain amount of hours in comp time. And I think that's essential that we get that going again, because we know that that comp time buildup is actually an obligation, a financial obligation of the county, because if that, and I'm not speaking of just this department, I'm just saying in general, because if that employee leaves, then that comp time has to be paid out in cash. And that was some of the reason why some of these rules were changed around, trying to reduce the amount of comp time buildup. And we've seen just recently, the city had some real challenges with that as well. So it's just something that we should keep an eye on. I don't know why it changed, that we quit getting that, but we need to get it. Oh, I see.
That was very helpful. You're right. That was a nice report.
Yes.
We will still be providing those reports. However, comp hasn't been as much of an issue as it has in the past. So those thresholds do help quite a bit. However, I actually just followed up with the internal auditor recently, and she's been consumed with other audits and projects. However, that is coming your way very shortly.
Okay. And I wanted to add to that, when we talk about equivalency of comp time versus the expense of overtime, it is a 1.5. It's straight time to 40, then 1.5 times, then double time over 60. The important point is when jobs go unfilled and somebody covers for those positions, that money sitting out there available to be moved down into the overtime line to cover that person working overtime, so that they don't build up a giant amount of comp time that we have a fiscal liability for, and you don't expect someone to not do their own job because they're busy doing somebody else's job. If they're doing their job, then they add 5 hours to somebody else's job. We want to compensate them. We don't want to be, we just want to use the money from those lines where it was actually already appropriated to, down to where it got expended from.
Yeah, thank you. That's more articulate than I was, and I appreciate that, because it's not that you don't want to ever have overtime. That's certainly one way to address the need for getting work done, and especially in that scenario. But at the same time, comp time is currently limited to 40 hours. Yeah, and I think if we could increase that a little bit, that might enable some more flexibility. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I appreciate you mentioning that, because I think that's exactly right. I've done some research, and 40 hours as a limit to comp time is very low by public sector agency standards. That's 60 to 80 is much more typical, and I know highway can accrue 60. I think 60 is a reasonable standard across the board for that, and so I made that recommendation to the commissioner's office. But as President Wilt said, it's not up to us. It's up to the Personnel Policy Handbook Committee.
And what the commissioner's office was considering is moving it to 60 hours, and then that's going to be proposed to the other two entities that make up the personnel board.
That's great.
Awesome, thank you. Are there questions or comments still? Yeah.
In light of that, I appreciate what Councilor Wiltz has kind of explained here. There's some of that I was not aware of on this, and I think that's very helpful. My end goal, having observed this process a little bit, a few different ways over the years, is to make sure that folks get paid what they're doing. Department heads and elected officials who run those departments are able to assign people to get things done, because gosh knows the public, when you come with an issue that you need addressed, they don't want to hear about hours or time, they just want it addressed. But then also that our policy would realistically not punish people, and would speak to what we need to do, and it sounds like we're heading that direction. So in light of that, I would amend my prior motion to set line 17101 in Fund 1000-0001 overtime to $15,000.
Second.
And if that is not working, we'll have to revisit it. But I'm optimistic, given the budget numbers we have for this year, plus in light of this new information, that we can get there while we're trying to reach this COLA for all of our folks.
Any other? Yes, go right ahead.
Even if you only put $1 in there, we all know that the department head can move within that category dollars down into that. So when you have an empty slot that sits there for 2 or 3 weeks empty, they can take that salary line, move it down to the overtime line. And so at one time, we made sure there was no overtime line to be able to move it to, because we were really short of money and because it was being abused at the time. But if we're going to allow overtime for any department, I think maybe we be fair, just add it to every department, then they can all do that. I mean, why just some departments? Just
I
trying to be
think if
fair.
it was set low enough, that would make sense. But we can save that till after we tackle this one. Other questions or comments on making this change? All right. Then could we have a roll call vote on setting the overtime line in the clerk's general fund to $15,000?
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Council, I move to open for discussion Fund 1000-0361 General Fund Extension and to set line 35050 radio and CD sirens to $0.
Second, but it's really emergency management.
Yeah, extension. They're buying some new emergency stuff.
The other E department.
So the other E, I'm going to amend that prior motion to be General Fund Emergency Management, and the rest be the same.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, so this was because I believe we were thinking of putting this into maybe cable franchise.
Yes. And or a bond. And I spoke with Angie Purdy in the commissioner's office, and she said that they have a line in an old bond with regards to sirens and radios, and that they could move that amount into an old bond.
In an old bond.
But isn't this more like a maintenance contract? I don't know that this is bondable.
Yeah.
This is services.
I
yeah.
thought it was
It's a bond.
replacement. Okay.
Well, a contract increase in repairs.
Yeah, okay, sure. I see, yeah. So cable franchise. Now, I know that we've got room in there because we've got balance in cable franchise.
Yeah, and Ms. Purdy has also looked over it and agrees, right?
Right. For that franchise, the anticipation is $140,000 in cable franchise. She said I probably couldn't handle much more than that. So, but she's already, I can't remember what the amount is, but she's spending in cable franchise for this year.
So let's go with it.
One thing, and I'll just say this for the public record, if some friction hits and this is not able to be whatever, we've got to revisit that, because we don't want emergency management things dropping off just because of that. So I just want to make that note publicly for us. But if we can find alternatives, I'm all for it.
Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to open up the bond thing, because the other thing that we had talked about moving into cable franchise is,
The Cradle Points, and then
yes.
it was software maybe that Miss Purdy had in hers that she reduced down and moved it into TSD.
Okay. So the Cradle Points then, would cable franchise be able to accommodate both of those things? But I know I'm talking about something that we haven't opened yet, but to me, if we're putting things into cable franchise, kind of thinking about, can it sustain both?
Well, I mean, I'm looking at what was written out here in the paperwork, and I thought, let's see, we were going to move, considering the radio and sirens line, which we just did now. And then the next one is telephone and maintenance from Tech Services Department in PS Lit, right? Now, is that for the Cradle Points? That is the Cradle Points.
Well, yeah, I'll find it here in just a second.
What?
You're right. That could possibly also be paid for out of an old bond.
Okay, so what's on the screen right now is where, in the public safety lit, the commissioners reduced theirs to 200,000, and then you added 50,000 for the radio software that she was requesting. So you increased the 90,000 to 140,000. So it includes the Cradle Points as well as the radio software.
Wait, can we see something that's current and is there a current? Yeah, I'm getting confused. Maybe I'm the only one, but I'm a little bit confused.
I will try to pull up lab.
Yeah, and I know it's difficult on that computer. So
Services. So what is the current value of that line 30072 telephone maintenance?
30.
What did we
Is that
approve?
In TSD?
I'm just
Public
going.
safety lit.
Isn't yes.
Are you looking at the TSD? Is that?
Yes.
You want cable franchise budget, or do you want public safety lit on the screen?
No, I think we're trying to figure out what to move out of
Gotcha.
first, and admittedly, what's on the floor right now is emergency management. But it sounds like we need to also figure out what else we're going to move into cable franchise. So what we have here in the script is a motion to set the line telephone maintenance to 0. And I want to know how much what are we reducing to 0?
Okay.
How much was in there before?
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing
Okay,
the
so the
balance.
telephone maintenance line, is that the line you're looking for?
I think that's 90,000.
30072 in tech services and PS Lit.
Okay, it is set. You probably can't see it, and I cannot make it any larger. In LAO, we set it for 140,000.
Oh.
Aha. Okay. Thank
Right,
you.
right there. If you can.
Okay, so if we're gonna do that, we don't want to move both 40,000 of emergency management and 140,000 of PS Lit into cable franchise. That's too much.
Right.
That's where, what he said. That's where I was headed.
So how much? is the balance in.
But those cradle points, what did you say that Angie said they could possibly also be paid out of?
Maybe ARPA?
Right now, cable.
Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Can you turn that mic up, please? Try again.
Can you hear me now? Right now, cable franchise fees have $400 and almost $6,000 in it. Were you afraid it would take it down too low?
Well, there's already an appropriation in there for the 2024 budget, so I'm basically saying, yeah, I think that would be, and it sounds like Angie also thinks that would be too extreme.
We talked yesterday, and she says she's not anticipating getting as much revenue next year.
So why don't we just forget the emergency management change and just move the cradle points in there? And then if we find some other capital fund that can pay for them, then we can move them out of cable franchise fees. Is that?
Well, then what will we be doing? Are we just not gonna worry about the $40,000 for the radio CD sirens?
That's what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting just withdraw that motion
Yeah.
and move on to the next one.
Just leave it in
Council,
general.
for purposes of us not knowing yet what we're going to do there, I withdraw my motion.
Okay.
Alrighty then. And now we can move to the TSD one.
Okay, council, I move to open for discussion Fund 1170, 0106 Public Safety Lit TSD, and to set line 372 telephone maintenance to $0.
Second.
Are there questions?
I think we've covered it.
All right. Then could I have a roll call vote on the Public Safety Lit TSD Fund?
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Now on to E. Council, I move to open for discussion Fund 25020000 Cable Franchise, and to set line 372 telephone maintenance to $140,000.
Second.
Other questions? Could we have a roll call vote on the move of $140,000 into the cable franchise fee fund?
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Council, I move to open for discussion Fund 11070000 Aviation.
Second.
So this fund, we had talked about a few different things, including the generator and the paving project, which are no longer in?
The paving project is still in there. Can we see the aviation budget, well, please?
I thought we took the paving out when we.
No, we took the skid steer and the vehicles out, but I don't think we took.
We took out $70,000 for repaving the parking lot.
Did we take that out?
We moved vehicle purchase out, and then we just did 3 other capital lines.
I thought we talked about.
I
Paving, but-
think he took it out, and even though he said he's been waiting up the whole time he's been there to try to get it done. So why can't we just get it done with the ARPA money and, but I don't think it's going to help your budget any because it was already out.
I thought it,
On the screen is
Right.
what you changed things to, so.
I recall that it came out with the hope that it would be done one
okay,
day.
can you scroll up, please? Where was paving then?
It's
Yeah,
right
there it is. So we did not,
Nope.
Really?
yeah, we did not. We
No.
talked about it, and in fact, I even said I thought about making a motion, but I didn't.
I
Right.
misremembered.
No, there was no change to that one.
So it's still in there?
It's still in
Yes.
there. So let's take it out
Let's
and we'll
take it
figure
out.
out. All right, council, I move we set line 30130, parking lot rep and main to 0.
Second.
Any questions? All right, roll call vote on that adjustment.
Just that we are planning on getting it out of ARPA, right?
Well, we have to get the commissioners.
Oh, well,
agreement.
right.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of options. It could be ARPA.
Correct.
It could be, I would love to find
An old
an old
bonds.
bond. Because we know that those funds are
I don't
lying
think you,
around.
I don't think you could pave out of a bond. Can, yeah, no.
Yeah,
Every
we'd have to
pair-
ask. Yeah, we'd have to ask the people who know.
Okay, are we ready? Okay. Counselor Wiltz,
Yes?
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor McKim.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Council, I move to open for discussion Fund 11760000 Motor Vehicle Highway and to set line 23400 by 2 minutes to $1 million.
Second.
Okay, so with this one, does anyone remember what we were doing?
Well, so my understanding is that the community crossings, I mean, what we want to make sure that we have 100% match for, at least, I think the purpose of this request is to make sure that we have 100% match for community crossings. But that's not going to come, I believe, until April.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? So I guess I know Councilor Hawk may have some thoughts about this, but I don't see why we have to decide this now. I don't.
And yet, wait until we find out if we get the grant.
Why we have to take it out now is because they're going to be over budgeted.
Right. We don't
Right.
have to find another place for it right now.
No, I'm just wondering, does she have to prove that she has it to apply for the, or we could just leave the million that's in there that we are approving, and she could use that for community crossing, and then we'd have no money for paving, and she could come and we could then get whatever.
True.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I would add to that is if we come back to it for a later fix to address the community crossing grant, I could almost channel Ms. Ridgen saying that we'd have to be ready to move pretty quick on that option. And I think as long as council understands that and is ready to move, that'll take stress off her life and her folks.
And when she's ready to go, if there's already, if we already have it covered in a line item with an appropriation in there, she can move forward. Remember how she got delayed recently because we weren't moving forward quick enough and she had to delay, so can't do that. Fault me for this. I told her to double budget in there and cover paving as well as for community crossing because I didn't want that to escape our notice.
Oh,
Mission accomplished.
Yeah. We noticed. No, I think that's it's a good discussion to have and to think about. And is this if we were to use the other budget for paving to match the grant, we could pave with ARPA funds, is what you've said. Is that correct?
We can pave with, yes, we,
She said yes.
Got it. All right.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm certainly not going to support, I would certainly not support leaving money on the table.
Oh,
We we've had such great
Yes.
results from community crossings, and I know
absolutely
right.
people,
this is
the residents
yeah.
have really appreciated it. So all the great job that Highway has done on paving.
Yeah. Okay. Other questions or comments? We just opened for discussion. Oh, yep, and setting the line to
1 million.
1 million. So we don't want to do that?
Yeah, I think we do. Because otherwise, we can't pass the budget the way it is now. We have to reduce it to 1 million.
Okay. Could you please do a roll call vote on making this adjustment in the motor vehicle highway fund?
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes?
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor McKim.
Yes.
Motion passed.
I don't know if we need this. Do we need this next one? We don't need this next one.
Nope. Wow.
Yes.
Not the next one.
Are we gonna, we have to hold off on that anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're on to number 8.
Okay.
Don't mind us. That's me. I've got to talk now. Yeah. So, some more discussion items. The first one to get the discussion rolling is I'd like to open the discussion regarding the fiscal impact of the frozen levy and kind of see where we are and what else is needed. I feel like this. I'm peeking between my fingers.
Well, I started out
I
tonight
know.
talking about how wonderful it was, and Jeff was, Councilmember McKim was absolutely right. The number did jump, so that's what I get for speaking too soon.
Although it jumped way back down when we fixed the health budget.
That's right.
So-
That's right. Which just makes this process so confusing for those watching.
And
But
some of us
we'll
out
get
here,
there.
but
We
that's
will.
okay. Yes.
I'm just, for the sake of moving the discussion forward, I'm going to throw out a bogey here, and I'm not interested in what everybody else is interested in. But I support the request for 40 hours for the prosecutor's office and the public defender, and I support an 8.5% cost of living adjustment across the board.
And you have a dollar
Is that a
amount
motion
that you're
or just
putting
a-
with
Well,
it?
that's
He's-
hopefully we
he's
can
a-
start getting that.
It's a bogey.
It's a bogey.
It's not a motion, it's a bogey.
Just wanted to stake out a position here.
Go ahead.
That's, well, I am inclined to favor both of those things, 8.5% COLA, as well as the change from 35 to 40 for our attorney positions, in theory. What I'd like to do is adjust. What I'd like to do is, so the 35 to 40 is 12%, 12.5%, right? So if we give those folks a 12.5% increase plus an 8.5% increase, then I would like it, whatever else we do with our other attorneys, to make it so that everybody's all cool. You know what I mean? Because our other attorneys are already at 40.
Right, so they are already benefiting from that increase, and they've already been benefiting for years. They don't need it again.
Right, why do you think the other attorneys want 40 hours? That's because the county attorneys that work for the Commissioners Council have been on 40 hours now for several years. We do think they're coming forward, the others, and saying, huh, we want it too.
Well, I think they're coming forward because they want money. I mean, they're underpaid.
Well, right, I'm not disagreeing with
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Yes.
This is sort of a philosophical position, but I think when we're talking about a compensation system, we want the end result to be fair.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that the change to get there will also be perceived as fair. You know, we want the end result to be fair. So I think thinking of it as a 12% raise plus an 8% raise is not really the right way to look. It's like when we did the commissioners increase, there were legitimate reasons to argue against the commissioners increase. Don't get me wrong. I think that was a hard decision, but the percentage increase was not a good argument against it. It was not the right way to look at it. We were fixing what we thought was a problem with positions that we thought are really full-time, that were being paid as part-time. And so we fixed it. The fact that it was X percent increase is absolutely irrelevant.
Right. And I don't, yeah.
So I think we need to look at the end result, not at what percentage increase it takes to get there and how that compares against other people's percentage increase.
Okay.
And Councilor Munson, yeah, she has.
Councilor Munson.
Thank you. I had some thoughts on this, and I think they might be helpful. In looking more toward our bottom line, I would like us to be looking at the 4B and the key cells there, and then seeing what changes we would make, how it would affect those key cells. So it would be good to have the current status and then the new proposed status, that we could look at both spreadsheets. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so we want to consider Councilor McKim's proposal of an 8.5% COLA and 40 hours for the prosecutor and public defender attorneys. And so that proposal could be calculated and then compared with the current 4B as it was briefly shown not too long ago.
Well, we do have, I mean, Michelle has put together some data on the impacts of both of these potential changes by themselves, not combined, right? But
okay.
I mean, do you want to talk over you sent us out a spreadsheet with the 8.5%.
And does Councilor Munson have everything that we have?
Yes.
No.
I
Not in front of
emailed,
me.
I was gonna say, I emailed everything out and I also printed it because I knew everyone wouldn't have time to look at it and that kind of thing. So, do you want to look at the comparisons of the 35 to start with? So,
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I would like to make sure we're looking at the 8.5 first, see where we are there. And then I accept the fact that you're thinking 35 to 40. I'm not saying I object to that. But I think our first goal was to get everybody to the 8.5.
Fair enough.
That's true, but if we then go back and do the 40, we'll have to change that changes the impact of the 8.5 quite a bit.
Sure.
Above
Right.
and beyond just that initial.
What you do is you see, okay, this is where we're headed.
Yeah.
And that 35 to 40 is something we'd like to do on top of that. Let's figure out if we can do the 8.5. If we can, then we see if
No,
we
I
can
see
do
it,
the
yeah.
40.
In terms of priorities, I agree with you. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's look at that.
on the screen, because I went through several scenarios. So this is the 35-hour attorneys. At the 8.5, And I also went through, counted all the attorneys, I put them on the scale where they would be with the step increases for 2024. So a fiscal impact moving 35-hour attorneys to 8.5 is going to cost $28,446 at the 1-year level. So I do not have a grand total on this all the way across. I can do that shortly, but
Could you
I
repeat
also
that
did it the
number?
flat
Could
rate.
you repeat that number because it's throwing in a bunch of zeros?
Oh, well, let me see if I can. Can you
I
see
wrote
it
down
now?
20.
It's right up here. 28, and that's for, that's a 1 year. So if you look at this grid, it's 1, or minimum, 1, 3, 8, 14, 20, and then the last one here is 25.
And this is calculated using the current number of positions that we have at those levels.
Correct.
So what we would want to do to find out the total impact
Right, and
is add those together.
right across.
And then below that, you have the 17%. Tell me
Well, I did the flat rate as well, so that
Yeah.
there's the 8.5%, and then there's the flat rate. And then there was a conversation with regards to the public defender, as well as the prosecutor, with regards to trying to get people, new hires in, at either 70 to 80,000.
Oh,
And that, the only way that I could reach that goal at a minimum
Right.
was to go to 17.
right.
So if you go 17%, that would, we have 3 levels of SO attorneys, and an SO attorney A going at 17% would get you approximately, whoops, I'm on the wrong one, sorry. An SO attorney A at 17 would get you almost 70,000. But we don't have anybody currently at that, but we do have some people at the 1-year level. Hiring then at a 17% at an SO attorney B would then be a little over 80,000, which was the target areas that both of the departments were talking about. So that's why I chose that 17% to kind of give you an idea of how much it would take to get that target area for 35 hours. Or target
That's
range.
still at 35 hours.
That's still at 35 hours.
So this does not address moving from 35 to 40 and then doing an 8.5%.
No, this is just strictly everyone at,
So you're gonna
that
do
we employ at
12.5%,
35.
and then you're gonna do an 8.5 on top of that. Yes, go ahead.
I guess I'm kind of agreeing with Councilor Hawk's approach that first we kind of come to a consensus on the overall percentage increase, and then we look at the attorneys separately, because that kind of goes on top, and that we ought to consider all the county employees first. And, maybe it'll take some time, maybe we won't be able to come to the attorney decision today, because maybe it'll take some time to get all the data put together, so that we have, once we digest the 8.5%, add it to the 4B, get everything corrected, then we'll have the information that Councilor Munson requested. So I think we ought to first come to a consensus on the raise for everybody.
Councilor Decker.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate the comments. And I again want to stress, I appreciate the elected officials and department heads who've come forward with the numbers to make this happen. One of the things I'll say is, while we do as a county council, we have a duty to the folks that work here. We have a duty to the taxpayers to make sure we do it right. They sent us here to figure this out. And so with that in mind, what I wanted to say is, I agree wholeheartedly that the priority goal is the 8.5% COLA. That is number one. That doesn't mean the 35 to 44 attorneys takes a back seat to that. It just means that we've identified that as a cross the board goal, and we've discussed that. We've been moving towards that. We've had a goal towards that, and that's important. In fact, I had a discussion with our prosecutor early in this process, and she could verify this. I said that is a goal. That's where we're trying to get. Now, that said, I think if these numbers would bear out and the numbers would demonstrate that the 35 to 40 change in some form, if not that form itself, could be done, I think we need to do it. And I think we need to do it wholeheartedly if the numbers bear out. And that's, again, me speaking to my duty to the taxpayers, because they hired me to come here and figure this out and to puzzle over this. And that's the money management we've done. The reason I think we should look hard at that beyond the 8.5% in some form, if not that form, is simply because we sat in here in the last meeting and we listened to what appears to be an overwhelmingly difficult recruitment of attorney problem that we have, and a staggering amount of activity that's happening on both the defense counsel, which is a priority and value of this community, as well as the prosecution counsel, which is also a priority and value of this community. Our folks like it both ways, and they want it done well. And as I was sitting here last week, I'm trying to do what people that are in public office often do and don't just get to the problem. I'm trying to think, well, is Big Red, and that's sometimes what I call IU, is Big Red not sending us enough attorneys? Are we not doing enough outreach? Are we not doing enough of this? And the reality is it simply is going to come down to this. We're competing for attorneys, and we're trying to get paid for attorneys, and that's all it comes down to. So I think that if we approach this with the priority being 8.5% as the goal, regroup around numbers once we have that on 35 to 40 as goal, to me, that would make sense. And it would conquer a lot of problems I think that we're currently experiencing. It is not predictive of future years what would happen, because again, we owe it to the taxpayers to figure all this out. And in fact, it could be different in future years. But I think that if I were prioritizing my goals for us, it'd be in that order and with that kind of a cause and effect.
Can I show you one thing with regards to going to an 8.5? On this grid that I had created, if we scroll back up to the top, someone had talked and mentioned that the comments, are not being paid enough and this kind of thing. If you move, and that the target hourly rate should be around $20, which would put us competitive with regards to our surrounding community. So I did a comparison, and we have no one as a comment A. So that's just moot right there. So comment Bs are currently making $18.98 as an entry level, but if you move to the 8.5, that puts them at the $20.58. So that reaches your target level that you are, requesting. So that's just, and this is the 35-hour scale too.
Okay. That opens up a whole other thing, and I appreciate
Yes.
that, because I did ask you to do that.
Right.
I think I would like us to get back to the overall impact of 8.5% across the board, to see what that looks like with respect to, with respect to the 4Bs, but what we have would be good.
Well, Kim, you had you did a fiscal impact analysis of the 8.5 across the board.
Oh, yes. Yes. Sorry.
You did it, and you gave it to us.
I did so much.
It was only sent out at 4:53 p.m.
So,
Are you asking that for that across the board or general fund?
No, I did it,
It's right there. No,
Right there.
it's not just general fund.
Yeah.
And
so I was asked to do an 8.5 across the levy funds.
Mhm.
And then the few that we mentioned quite a bit. So this is that result, and you can see the difference in the FICA and PERF with the grand total. So general fund, you'll see it'll go from, an increase of 229 million. So
Wait,
What? Hold on.
The
and then the
increase.
sheet that we have in front of us is the one after the changes that Councilmember McKim asked to move
Oh.
highway MVH down and to
I'm
also.
sorry, I pulled up the wrong one.
Yeah.
This is the old one, sorry.
I think, well, Councilmember McKim, I don't want to steal your thunder.
Right, that didn't have the right numbers, and I said that to you
Right.
the other day. 'Cause you did that.
I did two, and then I made an adjustment, I'm sorry.
There's a lot.
by
of
the way,
paper
while
here.
we're waiting, just got the message that the gas leak situation has been resolved.
Thank God.
Great.
No other details, but go about your business is what they say.
Go about your business.
Okay, there we go. That's the updated version, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Now, do those health numbers take into account?
That takes in what was submitted originally. It does not reflect any changes that I will be making. So that number will go down.
Go way down, okay. So really, the general fund is obviously the big one, and we're talking about a $2.3 million increase in the general fund if we go 8.5 across the board.
Yeah. Okay. I followed that.
But you just added the difference in the difference in the COLA,
I didn't hear.
2.3. See,
Yeah, the column labeled difference and then difference FICA and PERF. Difference is just the salary
yeah,
difference, right?
that grand total makes it sound like as if, oh, that's how much the increase.
Right.
No.
Yeah, it's very,
So essentially, for folks watching at home, if you add difference in FICA and PERF, that's the money we've been trying to find to do the 8.5 by
Right.
fund.
It's basically, it's those two columns, difference and difference FICA and PERF added together.
those are the numbers we need to see. Those two columns.
Yeah. So again, it's about $2.3 million, probably 2.4, less than 2.4, adding up all the
And how
frozen
much do we
levy.
have to work with?
Well, I don't know. We just made some changes. I made a change in the only change I made in the 4B was to reduce the health budget because that we knew what the bottom line was. And that leaves us about 278,000 surplus in the frozen levy. And of course, we know we usually have about $1 million or so or $2 million in reversions in a normal year.
I mean, I still have not had an opportunity to look at a breakdown in the miscellaneous revenue. Have you seen a breakdown in that? Like how much was actually added for public safety? No, how much was added for our lit and Was that reduced any? Because, I mean, I understand and I appreciate the fact that the auditor, she's the one that has to derive at what goes in that miscellaneous, and her instructions are, as they always are, coming from the state, to be very conservative with that. So are there any places where you've maybe been overly conservative?
You want to try this one?
Honestly, no. I was overly conservative initially, and I went back through with Auditor Smith and provided more realistic numbers. Just as a process, I'm always very conservative. So,
One of my concerns is our cash balance is high, plus we have a lot of money in the rainy day fund. And even if we say take the highway stuff, put that, take that out of the rainy day fund forever, our balances are still high. I do not believe in the future that we'll be sitting this flush with money because all this extra money come in from these other sources. That was, I hate to use the word windfall, but ARPA brought money in, the opioid brought money in, just here and there, things, added up. I think this is our once, basically in a generation, chance to right-size this. I would like to think that we could, because I do believe COLA was less last year than it should have been, even though you gave one-time raises or one-time bonuses. The problem is we didn't raise the salary, so now we're sitting here with salaries below, and salaries below what they should have been if you looked across the board at COLA. And the issue becomes we spent so much money on the Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy right sizing of these charts and these job descriptions that we're getting away from that if we don't keep up with COLA. And the reason I specifically asked for 8.5 is because it took us back and erased the deficit from last year. So I wouldn't tell you that we could do it if I did it in my heart, believe that we can do it without hardship.
Do you know, have we been told yet what the special distribution might be with the income tax? I haven't gone online to see, but I've been hearing from other council members in other portions of the state that it appears that they already know what theirs is.
It's in there. It is in there.
Michelle, what is the sum of those blue numbers?
That is the total of the difference plus the difference FICA perf.
And then can you sum those?
Yeah, what is the sum of those numbers?
Sorry.
That's
Yes.
okay. Try and be as vague as
Anytime
possible.
you have a row or column,
Right.
Sally, you always all do a sum.
Yeah. 2.5 million.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been pretty consistent. But again, that does still include the health double budget.
Which will leave, so that, that'll probably leave us around $2 million paper deficit, which is pretty much in line with what we normally
Revert.
are, and we always wind up with more money than we started with.
So please.
I'd like to call in Councilor Munson.
I have just, I have an important but probably minor question in terms of the bottom line here, but the probation department employees, as you know, have a state mandated COLA that is different from ours, and it is 2.7% for beginning probation officers, and for others it is 6.1%. And so this changes the amount of COLA that the county would need to contribute in order to make their COLA equal other county employees at 8.5. And I don't know if whoever did the calculations took this into account.
They did not.
Okay,
So,
it's a small amount, but I just would I would throw that out there to you all.
But I don't think we ever agreed to establish that as a general principle, that we would always match.
No, we did. No,
that we would always
did not.
boost up there. I
Right.
mean, we were dealing with a problem where they had some particularly low entry-level salaries.
And so
Yes,
when
and
the
there- and there's-
state said that last year it was, I think, like 3%.
Yeah.
And so the county made up the difference to take to 5. Then this year, the state says, well, say 7.5. Well, you know, that actually then got them ahead. So far, they're ahead. So I just think we ought to leave it alone. And if the state's going to tell us what's to be, it's what it's going to be, and we can't just keep messing with what the state tells us have to do with everything else.
Wasn't it 7.8%? 7.8.
Well, 7.8.
Yeah.
So
It was,
Pretty good. I mean,
It was 7.8 based on what the state set the year before. The
That's
difference
exactly
that
correct.
she's mentioning is the 6.1 is the 7.8 minus that 1.67 that we had given already.
I see.
So that's where the 6.1 comes from.
right, and they know that because I discussed it in detail with them, and there was no
Correct,
expectation of it being different.
correct.
so the reason we took that extra effort last year was to help with their very difficult challenges in filling positions and attracting applicants. And this hasn't really changed. I think it may have helped some, but it's certainly not going to help if this declines.
Excuse me, Marty, I did leave out one very important piece of revenue that we have not received yet, but is on the way. And that will be added to the general fund and will help us out a great deal. That's the $680,000 that's coming from FEMA. We have not received that yet, but we have been waiting for it. And when it gets here, that will be added to our general fund. So I know it's been backburnered because Bree has been actually having to put on boxing gloves to work to get it.
Yeah.
But it's looked like it's freed up now and it's on the way.
All right. Did you have something, Councilor Everson?
I do. First of all, this is like a fiscal budgeting drama, like brand new revenue at the 11th hour. That's fantastic. That's right. It's very exciting. But the blue column on the screen representing that $2.5 million, I think Councilmember Kim just mentioned something, and I think it bears a little bit of repeating, though, that we now know with that 2.5 that an 8.5% increase is doable at this time. So all things equal, other revenues coming in later. It's interesting, and I do realize that someone just made changes to the 4B, and it'd be interesting to look at that as well, given some of the changes that are happening.
yeah, I just updated the health number. That's all, because I don't know what the other updates are. But
Yeah,
Have you seen the supplemental? How much is supplemental?
So
I didn't see it. No, I didn't see it on the web.
I have an odd question. How many Comet employees do we have? Mm-hmm.
that's a good question.
You know, the thing is, gosh, our operating balances are still really strong. That's the thing. It's, you know, PS Lit, wow, still it's 56%. Even if we add the add in the 8.5 cost of living increase, it's, you know, it's still probably going to be around 50%.
Yeah, I mean, general's 49.
Yeah.
Health is now 113. Of course, that's the state revenue coming in, but still.
So what was that? What was the number in general that you, Kim? Oh, you're doing something else. I'm sorry. No. No, I can add those myself. Hang on.
Do you want the comment number, or do you want me to pull something else up? I mean, I have it. It'd just take me a second to put it together.
No, I'll put in what I was going to do. So even if we add that the 8.7 or 8.5% to the general fund, for example, we still have a 42% operating balance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's the 1 point, or the with the sum of the blue column.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it seems to me we might want to remember that we have moved around a lot of things that might not be sustainable where we've put them to. So I'm not speaking out against the raise. I'm just saying we know we were counting on a lot more interest having to do with that ARPA money sitting there. In a couple of years, that won't be there.
Yeah.
And if that 16% was actually a 16% of the total revenue, and if that total revenue for the county was over $2 million for half a year, and if it's a full year, that'd be $4 million. And I took 16% of that, and what was that number I came up with the other day? When I was talking to you, I stood in my head. Well, 10% at $4 million is $400,000, and 6 times
So 460.
4 is 24, so that's 640,000 in revenue, but that doesn't mean that we were counting that 640,000 in the general fund, because that's split up amongst all the funds, because that 16% was in a part of the total, and the total all gets split up differently, if I'm understanding that correctly. So I can't see that far. Are you frowning like I don't understand it? I mean, please explain.
No, that's not what I'm frowning about. I'm frowning about the fact that that I'm sitting here thinking about all the different departments who come up here and voluntarily gave stuff up that they really needed, like myself. I gave up $50,000 that I really needed, that I'm going to have to work next year to make up, that I'm negotiating right now with the contract to try to make that money back. That is my commitment level to the people who work for me and the people who work in the rest of this county. And I think this would be different if we were struggling to pay our bills. But we're sitting here cash flush with a high savings account and people who we are trying to retain. And we give them retention budgets, but we are going to pay somebody the day after the retention budget is given to us, which is on September 30th. She's leaving on October 2nd. October 2nd. The retention bonuses do not retain people. What really do retain people are salaries that are livable and usable. And that's the point I wanted to make. And I don't mean to pick on this one employee, but how would you like to sit here as the elected official and have to give a retention bonus, write that check out, knowing that person's getting ready to leave, literally in a few hours after that bonus is cut?
Well, we did the retention bonus last year as an effort to try to prevent people from leaving, and I don't recall you talking very much about us not doing it at the time. We're here at this level now. We appreciate the departments that have come forward, including yourself, about those sacrifices, and we're trying to figure it out. If we weren't committed to that, we wouldn't be sitting in here trying to figure that out. So I think we productively need to stick to trying to figure it out and move on down the road. It sounds to me like the 8.5 is sitting there as an objective that it looks like we can reach. Am I wrong on that?
I believe we can.
Yes, honestly, I think we can. And what I was asking about with the comment employees is the idea that I'm still interested in seeing what else we can do. And if we can do 8.5% for everybody, do we still have room to then do on top of that, flat bump for the entire comment grid?
What is a flat bump? What do you mean flat bump?
Raise everything, raise everybody up by a dollar amount. Yeah, exactly. So I tend to think about salary as opposed to per hour, but like, $1,000 bump on all of them across the grid. And that helps the comment situation that I think we're all aware of, which is those jobs are going to be the ones struggling the most to, meet their needs. They're the ones most impacted by the inflation. And so I was asking how many positions that was, because of course, if it's a flat bump, okay, it's my new term, flat bumps, then it looks like it's 140 positions. So that would be $140,000 if we did $1,000. Of course,
Plus the 21% for benefits.
Plus the increase.
FICA and perf, I guess.
Plus FICA and perf, of course. My point being, if we all agree 8.5% is doable, is there additional wiggle room? And or is 8% a better number? And then we look at some of these other things like flat bumps for certain folks. Or we still haven't resolved the SO attorneys changing from 35 to 40. So I appreciate that we've, gotten information and we feel comfortable with 8.5 across the board if that's the only thing on the table. I just still feel like there might be other things on the table that we want to look at. And that doesn't have to, I get it, it's getting late. So we can have that conversation, we can continue that conversation, but I feel like we shouldn't drop those points.
I'm certainly open to things in addition to the 8.5%, although I'm more willing to go to the mat for the attorney salaries, because I know that's also a serious issue. They're not. It's maybe not the same issue as with the comments, but it is certainly an issue. Did it look like Councilor Cross there?
Yeah, sorry, the lights are really bright in here.
They really are.
I'm very nauseous right now, so I'm sorry for not saying much this evening, but I do agree with Councilor McKim. I do think that we are, the auditor and staff have done their job of trying to prove and show that we can get to the 8.5. It seems that our council staff has also done that. I think, I guess for clarification, if we are here if it seems to be that we are at the 8.5 agreement, I guess what I'd like to do is try to move forward and see what we can do in addition to public defenders and prosecutor office. As much as, we don't like to have late meetings, we are here. And they are also here as well. And I appreciate them taking their time to doing that. But I really want to see how we can get them to that magic number as well. I know every department head has come through here and has vouched and have gone through the motions. We saw that last year with the sheriff's office, the correctional officers. I also want to circle back and say that I do think that we need to make sure that we are doing what we can for a probation officer in that position as well, because they too are suffering. Everybody, we see what we are doing in terms of lack of pay. People are going elsewhere, people are leaving, people are going many different areas and choosing to leave this great county of Monroe. So what is it that we can do to make sure that we can get to this level of what folks are asking for? And I just wish that it is the will of the council for us to see how we can make sure that we can get the public defenders and probation and also prosecutor's office to their desired pay as well. I think it is important. I think it's necessary. I think we owe it to them. As a liaison for public defenders, I got a chance to sit in their office yesterday for just a little bit and talk. And there were some very interesting things that were said and things that relayed with or stayed with me and continue to stick with me. I had a person tell me that they had 153 clients. That's 153 bodies that they are always on, not always off. They are continually trying to do what they can. And that's not 153 clients doesn't also mean 153 cases. That's a lot more. I just really want us to try to do what we can to have this conversation as much as we can to try to get them to the level. And I know we are trying to do what we can. But I think that we have the tools here, and I think we should just try to do it. That's just me.
Whoops. 65 hands that way.
I'll start with Counselor Hawk.
I just wanted to remind us that we have a lot of people who are paid with grants. So we haven't addressed what it's going to cost to cover those. Are we talking, I mean, that's just in general, that's something we have to think about. That a lot of people get paid with grants, they don't even know they're getting paid with grants. They just want their paycheck. So we need to look at what that's going to cost. Also, the highway department met with people from the council legal department, discussed some of the things that they wanted, and we've never seen the results of that. So believe me, they haven't forgot they had the meeting and turned in the requests. So I don't want to leave anybody out of the equation.
Yeah.
I'm not talking against any of it. I'm just saying we have to think about everyone.
Counselor McKim.
So, although I definitely agree with Counselor Crossley on supporting the public defender and the prosecutor, I'm not sure that we can do that tonight. I feel like there are too many moving pieces at once, and I want to at least set a platform on which we can build. So, Council, I move that we update all budgets to include an 8.5% cost of living adjustment.
Second.
Including grants, or is that something to be determined?
Yes, and the department heads will have to come back to us if that presents an issue.
Did you get that, Ms. Shell? Okay. So
I did.
I say we go ahead and have a roll call vote on this issue. Point. Motion.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous. And thank you for the work.
So, I mean, it seems like from there, that will give the office an opportunity to update all the budgets, update the 4Bs, and then we can tell exactly what it will cost to bring the prosecutor and public defender attorneys to 40 hours. And Counselor Wiltz, it sounds like she has some either alternate or additional proposal.
I purely meant it in addition. Yeah.
Right, then it'll give us a chance to get
Didn't
more
mean-
specific costs rather than always chasing our tail.
And if I may, and I'm big on being clear on messages. I just want to point out that this motion that we've done, what we've just voted on, has moved that ball for a lot of people down the road towards which we have been requested. At the same time, there's still more things that have yet to be done, just like there has been since January, whatever day of 2019 when I came into this job. And so we will keep moving towards that effort. And I appreciate everyone's diligence and effort towards that, understanding that we're doing our duty by the taxpayer of the county to provide the services to the people of the county, and by doing well by our folks. So we're moving in that direction, hopefully moving in a positive direction, but we moved a big direction just about 3 seconds ago, and hopefully the numbers bear out.
Madam
Council-
President, I feel like we're getting ready to end this meeting, so my question would be, if we want to discuss this budget discussion go on further, county legal, are you listening?
No, I was.
Okay. I mean, I know this is not like the official budget hearings, but I just wanted to make sure that if we say, okay, this is over, the state's not gonna come back and say, well, you didn't recess the meeting, you adjourned it, which we got in trouble with that before. So, can we adjourn this and pick it up at whatever next meeting, as long as we've got it all done?
The next meeting's already noticed, so I don't think that's a problem, right?
Right. I mean, we have a meeting scheduled for the 26th.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt very much that I will have everything ready at that point, because I've got to get the grids out to all of the departments, and that's what I was going to mention. I got to get the grids out to all the departments. They're going to have to go into LAO and make those changes. I will not be able to do that. I can assist and that kind of thing, but they're going to have to individually go in and change each one of those lines to the new salary amount. So I'm saying maybe by the public hearing.
I think we're gonna have to. I mean, I know it's hard, but I think we're gonna have to. I mean, it's in everybody has been asking for these raises. This is a way to help make it happen, is to do this immediately. I just don't think we have the time. I mean, I think we need to have the numbers by the next meeting.
I'll try. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm not going to promise it.
I mean,
That's
I
what
know
I'm
it's
just
not
saying.
under your control.
Yeah.
I totally understand that.
Because I have a grid ready to go, but I hadn't had it finalized because I didn't know where you were going.
Yeah.
I know.
So
Yep.
if I work on it tonight, that's what I'm saying. I could get it out to them tomorrow and give them direction. So that's going to give them Thursday, Friday, and then Monday and Tuesday until we have our meeting, right? Or no, we got 2 weeks. Am I ahead of myself?
No,
No,
unfortunately.
so it is next week. So yeah.
It is next week.
So, and some departments are at conference. I don't know if they're in, that's what I'm saying. I will try to the best of my ability and with the auditor's help.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have the 26th.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm
Oh.
okay. Well, that's a lot to ask of folks to get it done that quickly, but it would be really helpful to be able to look at everything updated and have another conversation on the 26th, because then on the 3rd we have the public hearing.
Well, and keep in mind, we are primed to have a conversation about Comet and the SO salary grids.
Yep.
We're ready to have that
We're
conversation.
ready to roll on
We
that.
just need those other budgets.
Mhm. Indeed. Are there any other, I have council comment time on the agenda. So if there are council comments, I welcome them at this point. Yes.
This is still sorry, this is a question for Michelle. So do you have you have done grids with the 8.5% increase, right? Okay, good.
Yeah, they're ready to a point. What it is they have the 4-digit decimal point, and you have to go in and clean that up so that it rounds to the actual numbers that they will need. So I didn't make those changes because I wasn't sure where you were going to land. So all I have to do is clean up the 4 digits to 2 digits, and then I can get those out. That's what I'm saying. I can do that tonight before I go home.
And then, I mean, we can at least start noodling out the impacts of these other changes that are being proposed.
Correct. And then tomorrow we'll be working with the health department trying to get all of that cleaned up as well. So
I know it's a lot.
not enough time in the day.
Councilor Hogg?
At what time are we going to move forward to have the community corrections tax fund established and ready to go so that we can include that in our advertising? I mean, we've got that approved, so we could put that
Yeah, we
in
could
our
do that now.
advertising.
Yes, you saw that the final approval came through. I think I forwarded that, or perhaps you were copied anyhow. So Michelle and I will take a look at that tomorrow as well with the other things.
Is it the commissioners that have to actually formally establish the fund? Is that the way that works?
I'll need to take a look at that. I think it's a statutory fund. Do we need an ordinance?
They're not meeting next week either.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll look at that and I'll
Great
give you an
minds, right?
answer later.
Thanks.
All right.
A lot of moving parts.
Yeah. Other questions, general comments, suggestions? Go ahead.
Great job.
All right. With that, thank you all. I appreciate all of the hard work that you are doing at this table, and I know when you're not at this table. So appreciate that and appreciate you all, because I know we don't make your jobs easy. So thank you. And I'm very hopeful that next week we'll be able to keep moving forward on the issues that we did not resolve tonight around comments and the SO attorney's grids. And with that, we are adjourned.